Will Bryan Kohberger appeal? I'll put money on it.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun.
I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Listen to Pavarotti.
Can I be your superhero?
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And my guy Sherlock, man, I know they're coming after you, bro. I meant to tell you, anytime that you agree with old Pav, you're going to get hit from every side. Just have thick skin, man. I mean, I deal with it on a daily basis. I've already seen thumbnails this morning. So anyway, I got to do this video. I'm going to do you two today. I got one coming that's hard hitting, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up because I keep seeing so many videos out there by people that just look at these papers and these body cams. And they go, this can't be, this has got to be real. Yet, and I'm not trying to brag here, but I assure you, nobody's looked at this thing as far as the details in this as close as I have. I promise you, people have sat there and stared at the piece of paper with the FBI report of the movements of suspect vehicle, and they've stared at it, and they've stared at it, but they've never gone and actually put it into a actual simulation. I've done probably 30 of them with the FBI report. I've got that thing dialed down to the second. Literally did it to the second. I put one out for my members, several months ago, I believe. I don't think I ever put it out, but I did it to the second. It's about 50 something minutes long. And it's just the FBI report. And then I condensed it into a faster report by taking that exact second report with a stopwatch going from each one of the sightings. And I condensed it down, and that's what you see in my fast version. But you see, once you stare at that about 1,000 times, then you have a completely different perspective on a lot of things around that incident. But once you stare at it enough times and you know the movements of suspect vehicle based on the FBI's report, and you know by doing that vehicle stops in front of the White's apartment every time for a period of a few minutes, then you start to get a feel for what that vehicle's doing. And without me doing all that, I would have never been able to determine the body cam footage on the Banfield was off. But I'm going to give you my final bit of proof in this one. And if people can't do anything other than look at a piece of paper and look at the body cam and go, well, they can't change that, it's done, then I can't help it. But I can tell you this: when you see people like Coffindoffer, Nancy Grace start getting very nervous about Bryan Kohberger filing an appeal, it's because the work that we're doing is actually having impact. Because let me tell you, where would she get nervous from? One of her recurring guests on her channel is Chris McDonough. Right. He's on there all the time. He was on that show last night. And guess who Chris McDonough watches? Like a hawk. You betcha, Pavarotti. I have no idea if he watches anybody else, but I know he watches me, and y'all know he watches me too, because him and I have had some back and forths. And he apparently had watched a lot of my videos. So I know with his eyeballs watching me and the things that I'm putting out, I know it's having an impact, and it's having an impact so much that he's carrying it to people like Nancy Grace, and they're starting to get nervous. So I know we're doing right with what we're doing here. But I'm going to give you my final shots out of the cannon on this thing. And if our community can't do anything other than blindly look at the things they're looking at and dismiss it, I don't think we'll ever be able to help, an innocent man actually get justice in this case, because with the mainstream morons are against us, and if our own community, whatever you want to call this thing, can't open their eyes to the truth, I don't know what else to do. This is my last shot on Banfield body cam, y'all. And if you can't grasp it from this, I don't know what I'm going to do for you. Let me show you. So once you go to this FBI report of the sightings of suspect vehicle, and you realize that Indian Hills, the 3 sightings, the sighting on Main Street, once you get from Indian Hills to Main Street, and it doesn't matter if you do the miles per hours in between these videos, you're going to come to the conclusion that this is all the same vehicle. They were right on this. This is all the same vehicle. It goes from Indian Hills. It goes to Main Street, and it goes to Ridge Road, and it goes to Linda Lane, and then it goes to the King Road neighborhood. Now, this is very important for you to understand, because once you understand that the vehicle seen on Ridge Road is the same vehicle seen on Indian Hills is the same vehicle seen on Ridge Road, and it's the same vehicle seen going across Linda Lane at 329.48, and it's the same vehicle pulling into the King Road neighborhood at 330, making pass number 1. Once you understand that, then you have to understand what happens after that, and you'll understand it is the same vehicle. This is very important. Pay close attention, y'all, because this is all the same vehicle. And once you get from Indian Hills being the same vehicle that makes pass number 1, this isn't the undercover cop doing all of this, going all the way to Main Street at 328.56, and then 8 seconds later, it's a different car on Ridge Road. That's impossible, okay? So once you understand that the Indian Hills car is suspect vehicle 1, just like the FBI says in their report, then you understand that once the cycle starts for suspect vehicle 1, you cannot stop it. Now let's look at what suspect vehicle 1 does once it starts at 3:30 and 22 seconds. So once you realize that suspect vehicle 1 is the car that's on Indian Hills and Sunset, and you start to look at the passes that it begins to make according to the FBI report. And look, see these time stamps as they go by the cameras? Those are exactly calculated with the FBI report. And down to the second, I used the little clock there. I have an animation where that goes in real time. All I've done is sped it up. Every camera sighting is down to the second of the movements between the cameras of where the vehicle's going. And you have to know this before you can really grasp what's going on here. And you can see that the vehicle that came up Indian Hills is doing their patrols. This is not Bryan Kohberger's car. This is the undercover cop car. And once you understand that, then the only discrepancy in anything is the body cam footage and the little CAD reports that I guarantee you that Brett Payne and likely Bill Thompson, Fry, everybody went, oh crap. And I'm going to show you how that happened here. I'm going to show you. And if you can't grasp this, I don't know what to tell you, but you've got to understand the FBI report on movements of suspect vehicle before you'll understand anything in this case. And when I say understand it, I don't mean looking at the paper. I mean looking at this right here, because this is 1,000% accurate. Every sighting, and see how they go to the White's apartment every single time in the movements of the FBI report. There goes the DoorDash driver pulling behind the residence. This will be pass number 3 right here. But then at the end of this, I'm going to show you the most profound thing in this. And that's what I want you to pay attention to, Sherlock. I'm going to show you where you start with your delta to make everything work. See how that works right there? They go in front of the White's apartment. Then they go down again. The DoorDash driver's still sitting there. They go in front of the White's apartment again. This is all before they do the third pass. They sit, they sit, they sit. They sit there for almost 3 minutes. Now they make the third pass where the DoorDash driver sees them. 356, 357. DoorDash sees them. Forget the green car. Now, this is where you get your first delta right here. Watch, it pulls out and it goes down on Walenta, but watch as it comes back. And it goes past that timestamp at 4 o'clock and 14 seconds before it goes that way. You see, going back to the FBI report, it's this timestamp right here, right? 4 o'clock and 14 seconds when the headlights are seen traveling north on Walenta Drive. This is the last time that you see the headlights of suspect vehicle before they say that the vehicle's captured at 4:01:30 on Ridge Road where the FBI makes the identification. And we know that this is not Bryan Kohberger's car. And we know that because the defense knew that. Remember this 4 o'clock and 14 seconds though. And then remember that happened right before the Ridge Road sighting and the Ridge Road FBI, everything on calling it a Elantra and everything else. And watch this. See, this is the judge's order on Franks. Defendant has not demonstrated a false representation or omission with regard to identification of suspect vehicle. There's some really key things in this first paragraph right here. Defendant next challenges Exhibit A on grounds that FBI vehicle specialist identification of suspect vehicle 1 as an 11 to 16 Hyundai Elantra was based on video footage from Ridge Road. That's the 401 video footage. Law enforcement knew or should have known that that was not suspect vehicle 1. Defendant states that he knows law enforcement based its identification of the vehicle on the Ridge Road footage because we have an email chain from the FBI specialist who explains on, this is key to remember right here, we'll bring it up here again in a little bit, November 23rd, 2022, that their team is mainly looking at the window configuration, something these other images do not. But later that day, an FBI agent sends them images from this video, calling it a great one. All right, this is going to be key because the defense is telling them law enforcement knew or should have known that wasn't suspect vehicle 1 on Ridge Road at 401. Now let's go back to what I was talking about. So as suspect vehicle is seen here at 4 o'clock and 14 seconds on Ridge Road, you can imagine at this point, they're starting to slow down and they're going to be pulling over as they slow down before they hit their body cam. Let's say that between 4 o'clock and 14 seconds and the time that they slow down and turn on their body cam, we'll give them 1 minute and 5 seconds to do that. What does that leave us with? Now that's how you get your first delta, Sherlock, and all the ones you found off of that are just more proof of it. And it's not Rosendahl and Tisdale who are lying in their police report. Rosendahl and Tisdale's police report was exactly what happened. And the FBI report, the DoorDash statement, everything backs that up. The people that lied, you're looking at right here. These are the people that covered it up. These are the people that had to go through and manipulate body cam footage and CAD reports. And let me just go ahead and show you why that is. For some reason, a lot of people have trouble cross-referencing all their information with these new documents. And I know why that is, because they don't timeline out each individual thing. But y'all know that I have. And by doing that, it gives me more of a clear picture of what was going on. And that is not bragging, that is the truth. And let me show you. You remember this, where I showed you the saga of the 1112 King Road camera. And we know, based on the police reports, that on November the 17th, Mowry has Rosinski contact that resident because they're trying to figure out, you know, what's on that camera. And then Mowry realizes there's footage being written over on the 17th. And the brother of the resident contacts Mowry and says they see a suspect vehicle on that video on the 17th. Mowry still hadn't seen it. Mowry doesn't get to see it until the 18th by viewing it on another resident's camera. And Mowry views videos on other residents' camera for the phone of the vehicle on 11/19, and then they don't even get the 5-minute clips fused together until 2023. So based on this, on November the 19th is when they first really get a view of the vehicles passing around the King Road neighborhood. So you've got to remember this date. And don't worry, I'll bring it back up. But November the 19th, first time that they're seeing suspect vehicle. Around this time, they're getting video footage of Ridge Road as well. I think it comes a day or two later. So, but remember this, it's very important. Then you have to go to the DoorDash saga, because the DoorDash saga tells the real story. And again, we've timelined out the DoorDash saga. Keeping in mind the November 19th date when they first get a look at suspect vehicle. And then you start going through all of the DoorDash saga and you realize that on November 23rd is the first time they have the interview with Molly, where she talks about seeing the undercover cop car. What happens the next day on the 24th? That's when Detective Payne goes and gets the undercover police car because of Molly's statements, and he puts it underneath the lights on Linda Lane and realizes, uh-oh, that thing's tan. Now, I need y'all to remember these dates because I'm going to show you where the cover-up happened. And it wasn't the FBI that covered it up. In fact, I bet you the FBI later on was like, how is this even coming together? 11/23 was Molly's interview. The next day, Payne goes and gets the cop car, puts it under Linda Lane's lights, and realizes, oh crap, this is the cop car. 11/19, they first saw suspect vehicle. Now, we're going to put this in a quick timeline just to show you, and then I'm going to show you something profound once again. So this tells us right here what happened, and it also tells us who is responsible for the cover-up. Because on November 19th, they see suspect vehicle on the 1112 cam for the first time, viewing it on a resident's phone. They take screenshots of it, send it to the FBI. On the 23rd is when they discover Molly and bring her in for an interview, and she describes seeing the undercover cop car. Something else happens on November 23rd that tells us the answer to where the cover-up is. I'll let y'all figure out what that is. Can y'all figure it out? On the 24th, Payne does the color test on the undercover car and realizes it's their car, but it's already too far gone at this point because something that happened on the 23rd, for some reason, they didn't want to go back and correct. And then on the 25th, we know that an internal BOLO goes out to all law enforcement for a 2011 to 2013 white Hyundai Elantra. They did not make that public at that time, though, because you can bet they were scared because of what happened on November 24th. Now, what is the key to all this to tell us who was the cover-up? Who did the cover-up? It wasn't Tisdale and Rosendahl. Their report was accurate. On the 23rd, that's when the FBI uses Ridge Road to identify what they think is suspect vehicle on the 1112 King Road camera. Remember? Right here. Exhibit A, grounds, FBI specialist, identification of suspect vehicle 1 is the Hyundai Elantra based on footage from Ridge Road that law enforcement knew, or should have known, was not suspect vehicle 1. Defendant states that he knows law enforcement. He knows law enforcement based its identification on the Ridge Road footage because we have the emails from the FBI specialist who explains on November the 23rd that their team is mainly looking at the window configuration. They're all over the 1112. But what else happened that day? That day they get the Ridge Road footage. And he says, wait, I got it. This is a great one. Before they got the Ridge Road footage on November 23rd, though, they were mainly looking at the window configuration from the 1112 King Road camera. So when this happens on the 23rd, and that same day they bring in Molly and she says, hey, I seen this car at 357 and it was tan. They go, well, we've just got this identification from the FBI. So what does Payne do? He runs out and grabs the undercover cop car, puts it under the lights on Linda Lane and goes, oh crap, it is tan under the lights. And guess what? That means that Payne and Fry are the ones responsible for covering up the fact that that was their car in all those passes. And once you realize that was their car in all those passes and you study the FBI report, you know that it can't be two different cars. There is your proof right there. And just to throw this in here, one of my favorite things is when people try to tell me about the cars passing at 1320 Linda Lane, as if I don't know everything about every detail of the cars that pass 1320 Linda Lane in triplicate over and over and over and over. Now you may ask, why is it so important for these knuckleheads to cover this up? Go back to your probable cause affidavit. If you didn't have all those passes of suspect vehicle in the probable cause affidavit, and instead you had your cop car driving around the neighborhood and you didn't have the IGG to tell the judge that you needed the warrant, then you would have never got an arrest warrant for Bryan Kohberger. They had to do it to get the arrest warrant. I mean, give me a break. Once I got that police report of Tisdale and Rosendahl and I started reading that and seeing what it said, and then I got the police report from Molly and then Payne going through and doing the light test, I'd already studied the FBI report, movements of suspect vehicles, so many times, and I knew what it was doing. I didn't even need to look at the body cam. You could take the body cam time off of the Banfield stop and throw it in the trash can. I didn't need it. I could tell you exactly what time the Banfield stop happened without ever looking at their body cam. I don't need their CAD report because let me tell you, once they realized that the FBI had gone through and did what they did, they went, let's just stick with it. And they don't need to know about this. And they tried to hide that from the FBI, folks. They didn't provide the FBI with those police reports and let them figure out that that was suspect vehicle. That was the undercover cop car. I don't believe that for a second. That was all covered up internally by likely, well, I know Payne, because, he goes through and does the color test, so you know he knew. But his chief most certainly knew. And you can bet Prosecutor Bill Thompson likely knew. And do you think with those powerful people in charge, they can't go to the dispatcher and have her manipulate the CAD? You don't think they can grab that body cam footage, which, by the way, when you receive body cam footage in Discovery, you receive it in an email, in a file attachment. You don't think they could take that and manipulate the timestamps and then send it in an email All it takes is a little bit of investigating into it to figure out that they did that. But don't tell me that they can't manipulate digital footage. Give me a break. When you send something on a digital file in an email for discovery, it can absolutely be manipulated before that email is ever sent. Now you can bet there'll be a paper trail of that. There'll be real records, but it didn't like back in the old days where you could take a roll of film, send it off to the expert to see if things have been spliced in. This is the digital age. It isn't difficult to manipulate things like that. They went through and they manipulated those things thinking nobody would ever figure it out. And if you go to the document on the vague and undisclosed, not vague and undisclosed expert testimony, what is it? If you go to the court docs, to the self-authenticating records, there you go. Go to the court docs. I'm not going to pull it up, for the self-authenticating records, and then go to the Linda Lane footage. Go to the 1112 King Road footage. It's listed in the self-authenticating records, and not only that, it's listed in self-authenticating records for the timestamps that they planned on using at trial. And it certainly wasn't for those entire videos. It was strictly for the timestamps that showed the vehicle pulling into the neighborhood on the 1112 cam and showed the vehicle making the passes on Linda Lane. They weren't going to show anything else, just those timestamps. Thank goodness for people like Sherlock Holmes, who actually can keep an open mind when they're looking at stuff, because it's people like that that's going to make the difference in this. So, no, it was Payne and Company who lied, period. Tisdale and Rosendahl, you can tell by their stops in the body cam that those guys are as dull as they're as sharp as a bowling ball. You think they're going to go through and lie and try to manipulate stuff? No, they couldn't, because the FBI report proves they couldn't. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Post your comments, thoughts, criticisms. And until next time, which will come here really, really soon, because I'm about to put the next video together now for you. And that one, I assure you, is going to be impactful, but I'm not going to bring this one up again. This is my last time on this one. Thank y'all.
until I walk away.